Alright, so as many probably have already seen, there are several astrologers on YouTube that have created or posted readings on the new moon coming up in Capricorn. I'd like to kind of, give my 2 cents on that whole thing, based on experience, because I think it's interesting, because I don't know what I kind of glanced at the chart and I don't know exactly what's going to be there, but at the same time, and that's the thing, I like reading charts right off, like I don't prepare, I don't like to plan ahead when it comes to chart reading unless I really, would have to, like for example, if I want to really save time, let's say if it's for someone, then I kind of do that, but depending on, I prefer not to do that. I'm following my North Node in Leo in first house, because it's like I'm just really going with the flow, intuiting based, I still have knowledge based on what I've known, what I study, what I continue to do, but less overly organizing things, because I found out that kind of just gave me a headache and it was just like, so, and it's not fun. So that's the thing. Anyway, so here comes the chart. I actually drew up 2 charts. I drew up 2 charts that were, one was just like the basic, the planets and the asteroid, but particularly asteroids that would pertain to new moon that I find would make more sense, instead of using my usual planets or the usual asteroids or the usual dark planets that I was using before. But now it's like more specified, or something that makes more sense with something new, And for those who may not know this, I've been actually, well, not me, but for those who don't know this, but I've been doing some research on degree theories about top positions on the planet, on each sign, and what degree they're in makes a big difference in terms of the energy that we would experience. And remember that astrology it's a tool for revealing the energies that are already there. Everything is timeless, and we always have a choice how we work with those energies, how we, whether you're talking about past life, whether you're talking about external events, it's not the external, it's always the internal. We always have a choice. But of course, it's good to kind of like, well, it's fun to get these messages through astrology, because sometimes some of us aren't that intuitive, or at least we haven't really been honing our intuition and their connection, even like mediumship and psychic abilities. But I say that it's good to channel both. It's good to do that, but also have this information, because it is a gift, right? So here we go. So first chart we're going to look at is, ta-da! So here we go. As I look into this one, yes, use the markup tool again. I'm going to try and go into this deep, but try to focus more on, like I said, I'm focusing on the moon. So that will be our focus. And as you can probably see already, the chart here is quite, it's mind-boggling, especially if you're new to astrology. Like, why are there so many lines? Well, if you look at it, I noticed that there's a sort of energy focusing downwards, which is actually north. So the lower part of the chart, so meaning the northern part of the hemisphere, the equator is this line right here, right? But that's the north. Down here in this area, that's the north. So, and this is the south, of course. And the south is, so everything is kind of the opposite in astrology, if you don't already know that. But the shapes I'm noticing is there's a sort of a triangular feel pointing downwards. There's a focus on internal processing. It is, I don't know, at least when it comes to the chart located in Greenwich in England, that's where I chose it to be, because it's more central, it's more, I don't know, it doesn't have to be that way, But the point is that there's something about that. If we didn't look at the houses, if we just ignored the angles, it would definitely be still similar. The energies would still be focused more on this area. There's a lot of planets, and I'll show you more. Actually, no, I'll show you right now. If you look at this, and this is just on the stars, the fixed stars on where Capricorn is, and a lot of the fixed stars are really focused on the Sagittarius, more like Capricorn area, because that's where the moon is going into. So I decided to make the fixed stars kind of pinpoint them, like it's really have the focal point in that area. As you can see, there's a lot. But I might go through all of the fixed stars. I might not. I don't know. But the point is, I wanted to show you that. That means there's a lot of guidance, particularly with from the constellation Sagittarius. Yeah. So I believe a lot to do with courage, a lot to do with conviction, those kind of things. So now we're going into this one. We're going to look into the moon, and we're going to see that right here we have the moon, right? 13 degrees. It's in the middle of, it's in a cardinal sign. So that means that because Capricorn is a cardinal sign, it's 13 degrees is one of its heights. It's a high point in when a planet transits or is in that degree of that sign or any cardinal sign, then it's really heightened. So it's a lot of, I would say, a lot of steadfastness, a feeling of that whole stability. People might feel a lot of stability in their emotions. People might feel very, very in tune with the earth and grounded, very much connected to their bodies, connected to the earth, anything material. But it also might be drawn to, because the moon is in magnetism. The moon is sensations, our feelings. It's this thing. This with motions, vibrations, magnetism. They need to embrace. They need to feel and touch the kind of stuff. That's very much the moon. Basic nurturing needs. So people might feel this sort of connection to this energy. The physical thing is really matter, right? And this is a Saturn-ruled sign, specifically finer things as well. Capricorn is about the finer things in life, or finer, like refined things. Capricorn loves to just be in control and be secure. I'm going to go further into this one and say that Capricorn is actually, sorry, every time I look into my notes, there's so much to look at. So it's kind of slows down, and I'm trying to look for it. Where's Capricorn? There we go. Okay, so Capricorn is about caution, responsibility, scrupulousness, perfectionism, traditions, of course, right? Practicality. I would say even to the point of pragmatism. That's a little bit more like Virgo, though. Whatever works, right? Taurus is kind of like that too, but yeah, it's Earth, pragmatism. And if it goes into negative aspect, or if we feel certain negative energies, then it becomes cynicism, right? Because Earth is very grounded to the Earth, so it's very practical. It's like, if you don't have evidence, if you don't have that evidence of where your emotions are falling, this is the moon, or you don't, it feels like, why should that be validated, right? Where's the evidence? Where is it in my eyes are showing me? Especially, well, what's not in Taurus, but it's still kind of connected to the body. It's still kind of less the body, but more like actually the bones. So the knees, the skin, and bones. Those are kind of where we might feel. People might start to, if I didn't actually put out here Taurus, or did I? No, I didn't. I don't know where Horus is right now. However, if we were actually to look into that right now, which I actually enjoy doing this way, Horus is, bear with me here as I looked, 1924. I'm going to remove the other ones. So 1924. I'm just going to go 1924 here. So Horus will be... Horus, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this earlier in the previous video. I don't know, just something about the timing of all this. I'm laughing because I had this feeling that Horus is actually in Capricorn, and that's not because I remember it. It's something to do with like the timing, and just like, wow. Okay, thank you for the signs. Thank you for the signs. So Horus is actually in 10 degrees, around 10 degrees, whatever minutes it is in Capricorn right now. That means it's in conjunct. It's in between Psyche and the moon. That means that people will be honing most likely honing one of the clairs, at the very least, transcensions, or clairsentience, clairsentience and clairguttance, or whatever guttance. It's like with less of the body, but more like the bones. So sentience with the bones and skin. So yeah, I would say sentience, clairsentience is one of those abilities that might pop out about a lot more. And because we are also talking about it being conjunct to Psyche, took some notes here. Okay. It's where we have this, it's where we want to have soulful connections with others. And the moon isn't just like our emotions, but it's also what we're drawn to. So it could be also people. In this case, it would be people like probably authority figures, because it is in Capricorn. So we might be drawn to like authority figures that we find a lot of connection with. If this does tie into Nadir, which is the 4th house, which is at least in this location, it might have a lot to do also with the parent or a parent. Namely, at least in Horary astrology, I'm reading that this is something, the 4th house is supposed to be like the mother, but for some reason it's the father. I don't know. I believe that the 4th house is more about the parent that gives nurturing. So whoever gives a lot of nurturing, that would be the 4th house. But we're not dealing with houses, we're dealing with just the planets and the signs, specifically because this is a worldwide thing, right? So the moon conjunct Psyche, and also Horus is going to, that ability, but also feel who we can probably get drawn to. Someone who is probably like a motherly figure, but also kind of more fatherly as well, because it is Capricorn. Someone who's just very kind of serious, emotionally grounded, and those who we connect to in a very soulful, like very, very deep level. But there might be also some fears behind it as well. This is a Saturn ruled sign. So that means that fear might come crashing, or might be like kind of a hindrance. When we look at Saturn in Pisces, we have to look into the fact that Pisces gives that color to this placement as well. So the moon might feel like emotions might be really, really feel at first like maybe stable, but at the same time kind of like muddy Capricorn. It's a muddy Capricorn. It's a bit of water in there, and it's not so like grounded. There might be kind of not so much shaky, more like uncertain and unknown and mysterious. So that feeling of like, I don't know who this authority figure is. I don't know who I'm coming across. I don't know if I'm sensing this, or I don't know if my right. So, and then I'm just kind of like wondering how we were going to connect with that person or persons, or generally like the public too. It could also be the public figures, authority figures in the public, because the moon also represents the public. This is mundane astrology, but it still applies. General people, general mothers as well, mother figures, those kind of things. Okay. I'm tempted to look into the houses because apparently the house colors it as well, but it also affects where it is. So something to do with the moon. The moon actually, let me go deep into this one. First we're going to look into the moon and what kind of places might this also affect, or rather how it's related to. Certain places are like, so of course anything to do with water, naturally, but bigger type of waters, not just like water, but like not the mystery of water, but the actual literal water. So oceans, lake fountains, seaports, rivers, fish ponds, docks, springs, sewers, wharfs, dairies. Dairies? What the heck is dairies? Okay, like, anyways. I mean like where they, okay. Where they where they raise cows. I think that's what it means. Not just dairy, but dairies. Okay. So it's something to do with the bodies of water, not necessarily ports, but could be, yeah. More like quieter, calmer waters, clearer waters as well. That's very... But the moon is emotion. That's Cancer. Cancer tends to love warmer waters. So maybe it's not so much about warmer water. Maybe colder waters, because it is Capricorn. In terms of places, we look into Capricorn. And what places are usually associated with Capricorn? This is something I've been going through recently, where it's like, oh, I totally forgot there's places as well. So people might be, I don't know, something about places pertaining to Capricorn, and it's the mythical goat, right? It's the mythical sea goat or goat or whatever. So mountains, hills, barren, rocky places, low stark places, quarries, storehouses, sheep and cow pens, threshold, tool sheds, and other old lumber piles, fallow fields, and thorny places. What are fallow fields? I don't know what fallow fields. Thorny places. Okay, so anything to do with those kind of places where very dry, but also mountainous, right? So places like Afghanistan, Mexico, Macedonia, Shetlands, especially Orkney up north, very mountainous. Greece, Greece, yeah, you can say, because there are a lot of places where they're mountainous there. The former Yugoslavia, which is Serbia, Croatia, Kosovo, Bosnia, Herzegovina. Is that Yugoslavia? Yes. And also, Slovenia. So there might be some sort of things that you might be drawn to those places. I'm not sure. Okay. The moon is in 13 degrees. So if we looked at where it's conjuncting right now, it's conjuncting Thetis. So Thetis is expectations of parents. Okay, so perfection. So people might feel this sort of need to care a lot about others to the point where it's probably overdoing nurturing. So it's a push towards that, where we feel we might need to, the people we meet, especially with that Psyche there, it feels like, okay, we meet someone, because Psyche is in conjunct to not only the moon, but it's also conjuncting Mars right now. And remember that early on in the earlier video, actually Cassandra's here as well. So there might be some doubts about, Cassandra is further here in Mercury. Around here. So Cassandra is not there. There's something else in here. Psyche, I believe. Yes, so Horus was one of them for sure. But anyways, so forget that I mentioned Cassandra. But anyways, the point is that Psyche will be conjuncting Mars, and Mars is will be already by this date, will be already in Capricorn. So very grounded emotions, anger, not just emotions, but actual anger, like assertiveness, will be a little bit more. I was listening to this podcast by Astrology Hub, and they're talking about how Mars is reactivated rather than reactive. You know, Mars is especially Mars in Libra. Mars in Libra is a very reactive sort of energy, but it's not aggressive, maybe argumentative, possibly. But within the fire signs, of course, it is very like fire, right? It's very, the planets are not the elements, it's the signs. So coming in from Sagittarius, it's gone through this phase of like, okay, it needs to express everything, come out, explode, whatever. But now it's more about being more of a responsible, having responsibility with willpower, responsibility with assertiveness, responsibility with So being a little bit more careful with how we act, how we behave, right? If we looked at all the keywords of Mars, we would see that Mars is actually not only assertiveness, and it's not really about assertiveness. It's not like initiative like Aries. Don't confuse don't confuse planets with the signs that much. They act differently. Just like you have Pluto co-ruled with Mars on Scorpio, but Scorpio is that thing, but Scorpio isn't necessarily about genuineness, like bringing to the core. Genuine is a different thing, it's a different energy. Just signs are signs, planets are planets. In fact, without the planets, there would be no readings in astrology, there would be no astrology, there would be no, because it's an aspect of their psyche. It's the planets, they are the actors, they are the what. They change depending on the signs that they're in and depending on where they're at. Okay? Right? So, so Mars is that energy of, let's go back here. Okay, of course, sexuality, animal nature, self-preservation, passion, angst, rage, machismo, impatience, burning temper, force or power, construction. Yes, construction. Work, strife, competition, surgery. Okay, fearlessness, inflammation, wounds, so metals. You get the picture, right? So it is willpower, strength, all that stuff. It's very militant. So being militant, that's a very Mars thing. When you get the feeling of the planets, you'll see what it means. So with Mars conjuncting Psyche here, it's going to feel like there's because it's a Capricorn, it's going to feel like there's a sexual attraction, also a lot of sexual attraction towards people we want to meet. Possibly because, and Mars is not conjunct the moon. Mars is actually conjunct Horus here because it's in 10 degrees. You can't see it right here. Mars is conjunct the Horus with Psyche, strongly with Psyche though. So Psyche is in between that. So the energy there is much stronger between the two. So Psyche will feel like this connection that we have with people will be both sexual and at the same time something we look into ourselves with. Horus is an inner strength. It's willpower. It's almost like Mars, but Horus is more about searching for your inner truth, right? It's your connection to your higher self. It's connection to the universe, your higher self. It's balancing between what is right and wrong. Mars is just purely raw, sexual, sort of, that sort of energy. That's gotta do it, gotta act, right? Again, whether it's initiative or whether there's initiative or not, that's not what it is. But so Horus is that connection to it, but it says here also blissful moment, vision, so clairs, sense of identity, heritage, culture, tradition, ancestry, clarity from digging into internal and into the internal and the past. So heredity, answer. It's a bit like the moon Mars kind of mixed, but also discernment, so it has a Libra thing to it as well, being discerning. But there's also another planet, there's also another asteroid about discernment. I think it was Eris. I'm not going to go into that one, So anyways, I love to digress, by the way, yes. So with this energy here, you have Psyche in between the two. It'll feel like the attraction that you see with the connection to possibly your own inner balancedness, like your inner warrior, your inner strength, Horus, your inner Horus, is, once we get that connection. When I say balance here, Horus represents that balance between the connection of what do I strive for, but at the same time, how do I connect with that? So it's a mixing of, it's almost like Horus is that action between vertical and horizontal that Eckhart Tolle was talking about. So Horus is that understanding of, it's almost like he's the gateway to the inner eye. Because the inner eye is a connection itself, but Horus is that connection to that. This is why it makes sense to me where it's like, oh, it's the clairs, okay, so it's a connection. But Horus opens that up. Horus is the bird, right? Horus is insight, is wisdom, but it's more towards going back to your own heredity, your own self, your own history, your own nature, which ties in much to the moon here. And at the same time connecting that to your higher self, your source, your energy, your chi, whatever it is. That thing. Okay? And so there's a lot of influence flowing between the moon all the way to Mars here. We're not even talking about Thetis here. Thetis is going to be this whole motherly figure thing that will feel like, again, it's overpowering, overdoing things, especially with Capricorn there. Might feel like, there might be some sort of, might get a little bit overpowering, like a lot of control, a lot of too much discipline. People might start to feel like but because it is a conjunction, there's a possibility of being able to work with that. The energies can work together if we choose to work with it together. So there are several planets. So you have Horus in here, and the right side here, you can see that. You can't see it. It's 10 degrees. Psyche being the center, but we also have here with Horus being the focal point between Psyche, also probably Mars as well, into the moon. But once we go into the moon itself, because it is the moon it is what we're focusing on today. If we're focusing specific on the moon itself, it's going to be affected a lot by the energies of Psyche. I would say as far as Psyche, and as far as the sun as well. The sun here is going to revitalize, right? Give a lot of energy to the emotions we go through, but in a very, very grounded way. We look for more practical ways to actually work with that energy, and finding ways to, instead of being in control so much of that, is we have to learn how to work with that inner thetis of like, why do we need to control? Why do we need to have this sort of like over others or even ourselves? Why would we even be hard on ourselves? It's like, I didn't take care of that. Why didn't? It's all about being discerning as well, right? It's really looking at it and it's like, okay, so these are the energies that we need to work with. All of these, all the way to the sun, all the way from Mars to the sun, it's going to be this energy of like, we need to work with that. Really work with it. I don't know why there's a conjunction between Pluto and Sun here. Sometimes I don't get the aspects, the orbs that they have on astro.com, but the Sun will eventually conjunct Pluto, and people are going to feel that quite soon, before the 20th. I believe if the Sun is moving all the way to the 21st, it's going to be in conjunction. People are going to feel that desire to be real, right? And this is a push of the sun. It's almost like the sun is leading away. It's almost like Eos, when Eos welcomes her brother, is it Apollo, to welcome, because Apollo is the carrier of the sun, right? So, but Eos is the dawning. She represents that. Eos is not here, but I believe Eos, I did put Eos here somewhere. I didn't. Oh, usually I do when it's the new. Okay, but because it's not really like a new moon into the new sign, I didn't put it in. But I believe Eos is going to be, if I go into the charts again, and I type in 221, this is what I meant earlier about working intuitive, or rather in the moment. Eos is, Eos will be sextile to Mercury in 25 degrees, 35 minutes in Libra on that day. Okay. But yeah, so because it's at 10 degrees Libra right here, around, did I see 25 degrees, sorry. 25 degrees, okay, right here. So 25 degrees, so right at this mark right here. Eos will be there. So that means it's going to be in between in an aspect, the square aspect between the Sun and Pluto. So even though we're not talking about the Sun right now and Pluto, that's fine. It's going to be that effective, because it's a square, EOS. It'll force people to choose between what is, not so much choose, but work with that confusion of like, is this something new? Is this something new? We kind of will feel like there's some sort of push where old relationships probably also might become an issue. With EOS is a new beginning, especially in Libra. We might come across new relationships with probably foundations and create new foundational relationships, but also have trouble with, when I say trouble, I mean like challenges, good challenges. Remember, squares are not there to, squares are there to keep us awake and keep us conscious and figure out what's real. What's fucking real? Right? I know I have Pluto, I have Sun Pluto conjunct in my chart. I've always desired real. I've always been able to sense people who are not real. Even myself, sometimes like, am I being real? Am I being real? Am I, even the facial expressions, like it borders on like paranoia, but I mean, Pluto reveals that. Pluto reveals the truth. It's like a discarding of the old, discard. It's like a rotting of what not only doesn't serve you, what doesn't work, but also more like, is it real? It's Pluto is the unspoken brother or Orcus, right? It's all about integrity, being real. What the fuck do we want, right? So, sorry to be too serious there, but that's what it is. So Pluto conjunct the Sun there, but with EOS squaring that is going to show us like there's possibilities for new beginnings and new types of relationships, specifically even with ourselves. And because it's in the last degrees of both Libra and it's critical degrees in the last degrees of Pluto, Capricorn and Libra, it's going to be challenging. There's this link between relationships and also like authority figures. So our relationship with authority figures, people might think, oh, who do we trust? What is it? Do I trust myself? Who trusts me? So I think it's a time to really go inwards, because Pluto also reveals where we deal with things alone. This is the time when Pluto is going to push it and be like, okay, Capricorn is already the loner sign, right? It's the hermit, right? So it's like, so people will feel that, a lot of that energy coming through and be like, come January 20th, which will be a big day apparently, we'll start to feel collectively, at the very least, that it's like, oh, it's a new thing, right? And EOS most likely will probably be around that area, but I believe that EOS will be also transiting Scorpio anyways, because EOS is an asteroid in the asteroid belt, so it's not going to be that far from Jupiter, Mars, Jupiter area. So its transit's going to not be, it's not that slow, right? So, but yeah, so eventually EOS will do its thing and there'll be new beginnings. And again, the squares, I enjoy squares because at least I'm learning to accept them and embrace them, because it's like, in any case, going back to the moon, so we have here this moon conjunct. Okay, so the moon is actually, okay, so we have these three planets here, including Horus is right here. Mars, Psyche, Horus, Moon, conjunction or stellium, opposite of, no, in this case, opposite of midheaven. So at least in this case, it would mean that the public will be sort of an issue when it comes to who are we really drawn to in a real and soulful, like a real way, and who do we start to feel and sense that through specifically the body, not only because it's Capricorn, but because also Horus is actually conjunct Mars here. So that clairsentience thing will people might start to be, it's time to also work with that energy and trying to feel like, okay, trust your instincts, That's basically what I'm saying. That opposition, for me, it's not important right now because it is, well, it can be. Take it or leave, I don't know. I would say because, again, the houses pertain to this location. That's something I'm still looking into. I've been not really looking into, really, but eventually I understand that a little bit more as time comes. But opposition, this aspect is showing that, the public view will be an influence or a factor to how we proceed with, or how we perceive and proceed with our own emotional experiences in the next coming days, especially starting on the 10th. So the moon will be specifically square to Chiron, right there. This moon is actually square to Chiron on the 10th. People say the January 11th, but I looked at it and I was just like, no, I wanted 13 degrees exact minutes, as much as possible. I didn't even count the seconds. I don't know how to do that yet. But with this one, because of the square, people might start to question, or rather be challenged by issues regarding freedom and authority figures. So when we're drawn to these specific authority figures, it could be mothers, it could be fathers, it could be any authority figure, someone who is in charge, anyone who is like above us, or who we perceive as above us. Chiron will be there to say, oh, well, here's a reminder of the past that you've gone through. You need to be open to new ones. If it is a new one, is it going to, it's time. This is showing shadow work and going deeper into that one. I don't know if you noticed with this chart, I also included the Liliths here as well, because I think Lilith is, because it's the darker side of the moon, it's good to work on that. Chiron is revealing this thing that we need to work on with our wounding regarding freedom, particularly because it is in Aries. And where Mars is concerned, because Mars rules Aries, it's going to be something that's pertaining a lot to authority figures. So authority figures with freedom, and figuring where we kind of need to, what we need to keep versus what we need to let go. Okay. I mean, we already have Chiron conjunct North Node, so the collective North Node of everyone is to head in the direction of being free. What is really free, right? With the North Node also squaring Thetis, actually. It is actually squaring Thetis and the Sun here. The North Node and Chiron squaring that. It's putting into question what real nurture is. How do we know what nurture really is? So we might come back to this whole feeling of like, I need to nurture, I need to protect you, or you need to protect me, because, so there might be sort of this question of who's ruling what, and we even get to this point where it's like, okay, well, is it about ruling? Is it about that? Is it about freedom? Is it about control? What is it about? I think that when we look back into all this connects to when we look back inwards and say, okay, it's time to be real again, but not in the egoic way. When the Sun is right here, so it's definitely going to bring out a lot of egoic tendencies, a lot of egoic like things that come from the ego-rooted wounding of like me, you're separate, me, be me, and sometimes we don't, we don't realize that we're doing that, and it can be damaging if we are not present, because we're going back into egoic. If we do go back to egoic, whoever gets left behind, but also literally, probably, in a very energetic way, is going to feel like, oh, poor me, it's the victimhood, right? Especially with Saturn in Pisces, there's going to be this tendency to fear of moving forward and fearing belief, and then we go into victimhood mode again. Right? Saturn rules all these planets right here, from Mars all the way to Pluto. Saturn is ruling that and questioning. It's like, okay, so it's having that feel of like that Pisces energy going like, do you escape or do you accept it? Do you escape into alcoholism, victimhood, sex, drugs, anything that becomes an addiction, anything that becomes toxic, anything that becomes hidden, anything that you hide from others, anything that starts to eat away at you, anything that kind of makes you feel like, I'm just going to run away from all this and not deal with it, fuck it all, I don't care? Or do we face it and be more like, okay, do we die of it? You know, Pisces rules 12th house, which is also a house of endings. So dying is not necessarily something we should fear, but this is going to still pop up again and again, because as long as, you know, these planets are in Capricorn, Saturn will be there to be like, okay, Saturn will be in Pisces for a while. So, yeah. So that means that it's definitely going to be about questioning whether we want to go from here or there. We have to know where to swim, right? And kind of doing it in a very not only pragmatic and practical way, but also kind of honing our inner wisdom. You know, Capricorn is a sign of wisdom because it works through things. It's patience, being grounded. So it's a time to be really grounded and trying to figure out, okay, instead of using groundedness to control, we ground ourselves so that we say, okay, just be in the moment. I don't know how else to do that. It's just I don't know how to tell you guys what to do. It's just it's you have to experience it more for yourself and you'll feel it, because otherwise, well, not otherwise. There's no if or and or but whatever. It's just it's personal experience. And take it from me, you know, this sun coming into Pluto here will make people go through again. Like, you know, there was the pandemic, but when you have the sun in there, the ego is involved in there. People's identities of themselves, people's idea of what is, oh, it's going to make me happy, I'm going to do this, you know, is not going to be about the doing. Right? Because we're focused a lot on that. That's the other side of it, right? Because it was in Capricorn, it's trying to undo and clean it. That's what Pluto does. Pluto cleans shit. Pluto is the garbage collector. You know, when we look at garbage collectors, what do we think of usually? We just kind of, okay, they're just garbage collectors. No. Without garbage collecting, you know, without viruses, without death, without the mycelial network, where does waste go? Yeah, exactly. I think you know the answer to that one. Okay, so the moon is also, let's go on the other side here. Okay, let's just squaring ascendants. So how we package ourselves is going to be a little, again, this is pertaining that ascendant thing because it is an angular, it's an angle, and it pertains to the house itself. So it's not really going to be relevant here, but just for the sake of it, just for the hell of it, it is how we package ourselves to the world. So we might feel like we need to have peace, or we need to have some sort of tranquility or peace, but at the expense of what? But we're not being real with it. We're not really connecting with others. So we feel like we might go into like, we might find the whole like, oh, okay, well, you're too controlling, or there might be again a shadow stuff going, like people pointing fingers at each other, and you know, being one is controlling, one is not to. So there might be like this imbalance, and so you have to go look inwards and say, stop pointing fingers, stop victimizing yourself, stop it. And you do it by doing research. You do it by going online. How do I heal? How do I go about this? How do I process this? Shadow work. Wim Hof, anything that you can get your hands on, it's the internet, it's there. And if you get it wrong, don't worry about getting it wrong. Fuck mistakes. Who cares if you make a mistake? Go with it. That's the Capricorn motto as well. Go with it. Make a mistake, so what? So what? Keep going. keep going, stop whining. Right, so this is, I mean, for me, this is thing that's happening to me quite a lot, especially the past few months, where it's like, I get this feeling, it's like, who cares, just go for it. It doesn't mean like go crazy, it means that trying to balance between action and stillness, being and doing. Of course, it's more important to be more in being, because that's where reality sets in, where we start to connect. But doing is not a bad thing, because doing, you can't just be doing nothing. I mean, nothing meaning like, if we're just doing, it's going to be eventually like the ego, it's going to be rushed, and it's going to not be creative, it's not going to be fruitful, it's not going to mean anything. It's just going to be like, oh, back to the same old thing, back to the same old fucking shit hole that we've been in before, back to the same old grinding crap and shit and self-victimizing and all that shit. Okay? No. If we want to be stuck, let's be stuck, fine. But it's time to go up above that, and using the trauma and experience we've had in the past to work with those. And what does it mean? How do we learn from that? I see some people going to like toxic positivity still, and it's like, stop. It doesn't work. You got to work with the energies, but you don't just spread that negativity around. You need to work with the energies of the negativity and work up. So with the moon also, let's see if the moon is, the moon is trining Lilith right here. So we can work with being ourselves and being in touch with our inner truth, our inner selves. Like, I don't know how to describe it anymore. Lilith is the inner sensing of your, not only emotions, but your inner soul, what your soul really wants. When I say soul, I mean like your soul, the connected soul. There's a reason why Lilith said, fuck you, Adam, I'm not going to be part of this whole like charade and this whole like, because I don't see a balance there. I don't see wholeness there. You want to be in control? This isn't the way it works. It sounds a lot like very egoic as well, for sure, but there's a lesson to be learned with that, because it's like, the real Lilith in us is really looking for that real connectedness. If you look at the water signs just themselves, if you look at the moon, how the moon rules Cancer, and you connect that to the other water signs, you'll notice how they love to, the real search of water itself, the element of water, wants to seek completion, absolute connectedness to the divine, while dissolving the physical, but still there. Liquid is liquid. It's flexible, right? But it has a potential to be hard as well. So it's solid when it needs to. So it's that understanding of the duality of solid and liquid, soft and hard, right? It's not just sexual and sensual. It is spiritual as well. So there's something about the water, and this is why it's also the element of ending. It represents the rules. It's in the signs that rules the house of endings. So if you tie this a little bit to how we have that similar energy to the moon itself and Lilith and the darkness and it's all about being balanced with your dark and light. How do you know which is this? How do you know there's light if you don't have the dark? How do you know there's darkness if you don't have the light? But also, this isn't just about choosing one side, it's about being whole. When I say light and dark are two sides of the same coin, it also means that it's not about light as in there's light only. If you look at it physically, like in nature itself, in this 3D world, right? You have light during the day, darkness during the night. What does that say? Well, yes, it's the rotation of the Earth, obviously, but that's it's not just a symbolism, but it's the energy we get from understanding that there is not even about the darkness or the light. It's the fact that when we have these, since we've had these conceptualizations of the light and dark, it's trying to figure out what they mean as one thing. Meaning, at least for me, the wholeness that comes out of that, this is why there's that yin and yang thing here as well. It's like, okay, that's a sign, I should get that. And it's, right, so, is not just balance and not just wholeness, it's not just connectedness, it's really total acceptance. But total acceptance has nothing to do with like, oh, just step all over me. Or total acceptance means like, I'm just going to kill everybody, I'm going to be a fucking psychopath and do the blah, like, no. It's trying to find the gifts behind it. Now that sounds like, if you think about it, like, well, isn't that a positive thing? So you avoid the negative? Well, yes, but if you look at the emotions themselves, when you look at the funnel of the emotions, like there's that, I think there's a picture on it about it, it's lower vibrations. The lower energies are meant to help us to create foundations so that we go up, but it doesn't mean that we disconnect from those lower vibrations per se, meaning we work with those energies and figure out, you can't have just space alone. Think about it, like the universe. You can't just have space alone. There has to be a push and a pull. Left and right, up and down, black and white. So that thing isn't nothing to do with really about positive or negativity. It's more about connectivity. Let's just go with that for now. It's connectivity. You can't put it in words. It's hard to explain. It's just when you're connected, you're connected. So the moon isn't connected to the other ones here, but I did believe that because Lilith is an aspect of the moon, I'm looking into the moon here as well. We have Lilith, oscillating Lilith here. So oscillating Lilith is the mean Lilith, or is it the oscillating Lilith is the true Lilith. So that means she's the part of Lilith that has gone beyond, is starting to grow and process the darker emotions, the darker carnal selves, and the inner shadow, those kind of things, and kind of, and so what this means with the conjunction with Diana and Artemis in retrograde, I might add, this area right here, in Leo, it's like the ego, which is kind of also Leo, more like the childlike in us, as to be. We might continue to question this, and I believe that it's still happening. I don't know how often. I don't know anything about the Liliths and how they transit through the signs. I don't really know about that. But what I see here is that Diana and Artemis have a lot to do with self-preservation, courage. What else did I see here? Diana, let's go with this one. Okay, so Artemis is curiously pursue natural and wild aspects of ourselves, whilst Diana is the urge to protect, where we believe in keeping purity safe. Combine those together, and we feel like we don't know where to go, probably. It's not actually in conjunction, though. That's interesting. Diana is in 13 degrees. Angel is in 8 degrees. Okay, so if anything, Diana is conjunct with Angel. So guidance towards our own. Well, we might question guidance. We might still consider guidance as like, oh, I don't know where I'm headed. I don't know. So it's like an ego thing. You might feel like you want to be childlike. You want to feel like, am I being guided in this case? Am I being guided towards being, I guess you can say, pure and childlike, but it's because of this conjunction, it's something that we're continuously going through because of the retrograde. This conjunction is we'll be able to work with it, but it's like, I think this might force us to be, I guess, isolated in a certain way, because it is opposite. Oh, okay, it's it's opposite characlo. So healing. So we might go through healing through social circles, through society and all this stuff, through, but with the help of communities, with the help of even technology, with the help of new ideas and all these things. But we kind of question, is like, how is that really helping us? How is that helping us connect? How are these new ways, or seems like new things, but it's not? How is that going to help us? So when we're doubting these things and we're kind of questioning our own, divine guidance, because angel is divine guidance here. Let's talk about. Okay, yeah, a symbol where we connect divine guidance, whereas with characlo is the urge to really heal deep inside from. It's with these two in opposition to each other, it feels like we're going to feel, we're just going to doubt it. But, it's okay to doubt things. Just keep moving. If anything, there's something about Leo in this Aquarian opposition, is that both of them are about being unique and creative in their own ways, right? Different from the rest. That's what these signs represent. Different from the rest. Leo is all about, shining and being. That's the thing with shining and having this power, this sort of like vibrance. It feels like the eternal child, right? So with that, it's like this connection to the angels, but because it's in retrograde, it feels like we're gonna, I don't know if I'm connecting. So people might feel this like guidance, but they might feel it in different places. They might feel it probably through, let's see where the square is. They might feel it through, it's square to Waldemath right here, Waldemath. It's the latter part of Lilith, the invisible or the unknown side of Lilith, which is the, I believe, I don't know, I'm not sure, this is very, very highly mysterious, so we might question guidance of a heightened, like a really elevated Lilith, an elevated truth to oneself, like truth to one's. What did I put here as Lilith? I took some notes on Lilith. Raw energy, okay, suppressed anger, primal instincts, okay. What else is there? Oh, okay. So Lilith also represents both male and female energies because it's raw. So being one with that is one thing, and taking away the imbalance. So because it's primal, because it's raw, it's like you both have that, but we've forgotten that. So Lilith is carrying over that energy of like, okay, we need to go with that because, we have that bitterness, the reasons where we have that primal urge, we have that resentment, we have that shadow thing with Lilith, is because we've been taught to see that there's always the separation, there's the duality. But Waldemath Lilith, because she's the heightened version of Lilith, is the part of Lilith where it's like, there is that, it's always existing. It's just, we just don't know it, and we don't really believe it. Right? So the square to this guidance thing that we're having between Dianas, so it's almost like we need to, we're not sure if we can protect that inner childlikeness because we're always hurting, so we kind of get defensive and we kind of go back to the shadows and we go back into our little old self and figure out what makes me, we go back into like the ego stuff, identity, that's Leo, And with Waldemath in Scorpio, it's like digging deep into that true and understanding of that, but we can't do it unless we work with the fact that it's like, it's okay to doubt, it's okay to have questions, okay to go through these the unknown path. Leo is about courage, Leo is about moving forward and having faith as well, the childlikeness, right? So because of this, there's also a T-square here, right, with Charclo. So I'm focusing on this right now is because, again, Waldemath Lilith is connected to the moon. So with this energy right here, we have this T-square of there's the reality out there, but we can't see it. But maybe we should stop looking with our eyes and just go. When I say go inwards, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to 24/7 be sitting there not eating. It's nothing to do with that. I think this is a time when people must learn to really eventually let go of even learning. Allow for it. Surrender. Do what children do. I kid you not. Do what children do. Do what toddlers do. Why are they smiling? Why do we love them? Why do we get drawn to them? Why do we want to protect their innocence? Diana's right there showing us protection. Why do we want to? But we doubt ourselves, and it's like this ability to protect our own inner child, our own, our source, the one we lost, so to speak. It hasn't been lost. We just think it's lost. So there's that square to Waldemath. We think that primal self, that high and elevated childlike self is gone. It's not gone. It's always there. How do we find that? I think this is what the pandemic has really brought out. And, even I still go through that, where it's like, you don't have to necessarily talk about things, but you do process it internally. So, one of the things I kind of wanted to probably share here is something that probably works for me. So one of the things I've been working on, and I'll put it in the comments below, or the description below, about how for me this works with, what did I put down here? How to acquire languages, because I love languages, but it's more than that. Where did I put that here? Ta-da! Let's see if I can find that. See, the fact that for some people, mainly when they see this thing right here, when they see this video, even just as watching, knowing the fact that it's long, if you can't stand that long, it means you have a discomfort with, not because of my video, but because you have a discomfort with being alone by yourself. When you have that discomfort, you're most likely going to point fingers, whether it's me or somebody else who tells the truth. And I feel like now it's like, I've had this before where I think that, I should face that instead of giving into what people think of me, all those things. Or it's very egoic still, but at the same time there's a purpose behind it. Because when the ego refuses, it's kind of like when there's a purpose for the ego. The ego is, I have this strong feeling that when it comes to the ego, the purpose of the ego, or one of the things about the ego is, because the ego refuses to accept its own uniformity and uniqueness as one. This very Lilith thing, balance female male energy, or the polarities, dualities of life in this 3D world. The ego feels it's unique in itself and always is afraid of death. And we're all afraid of death. But the thing is, how are we afraid of death? So the ego, one of the things that the ego does is for sure to run away from that. And to itself, and making it more and more special. It wants to rip away from the umbilical cord. It wants to be, it's the absolute separatist. It's the absolute denialist. Okay, it's like but it's unreal. It's not real. It's a fiction. It's this fictitious sort of mindset of the ego is our false sense of self. So, and it's okay. So that means it's okay to have the false sense of self, because it means that it reveals the polarity of false to truth, right? When you have a false sense of self, eventually you get sick and tired of that. Gradually you start to awaken. Gradually you start to go, oh my God, I don't need to be this one thing. I don't need to be this one thing. I'm everything and all of it all at once. So I want to post things you can probably do, not necessarily with languages, some things that I do myself that I feel are going to, I don't know, it's just my thing. I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things you can probably do to be more childlike. This is, it's helped me a little bit. When I say a little bit, I mean, that's an understatement. It's helped me a lot. But I'm sharing this later, and you put it in the description below. I'll put it down there. So that's it for this chart right here. I'm not going to go, digging my heels into this one as much. There's this asteroid Lilith. I totally missed that one. Opposite of Sedna. I'm so sorry about this one. Sedna is still in retrograde, stuck in Taurus. And so Sedna is, I'm still trying to understand Sedna. Sedna is this part of us that is, what do you call this? Cheat sheet! Destiny, past cycles, urge to relinquish, okay, willingness to be open, and openness where we let go of the egoic beliefs about communal nature, nurture, responsibility to natural destiny. But there's something else that Philip Sedgwick said about Sedna. Sedna. So it's forgiving disposition, discernment, clarity of perception, recognition of free will and choice, responsible, conscious of consequence for thinking, Dharma-oriented, does the homework of life. Okay, so that makes sense. The urge to relinquish, forgive. Alright? With this whole opposition thing, it might lead us to victimization, of course. Okay, abuse, being deceived, history of betrayal, bitterness, gold digging attitude in relationships, transfers blame to others. So it's pretty much, but Sedna is not just that. Sedna is, there's something about Sedna where it's the bringer of past, what do you call this? It's a reminder of the cycles that we go through. It's a reminder of that it's okay to go through cycles. There's something about Sedna. I'm still trying to get my hands. I'm trying to grasp what Sedna is. It's a little strange, but apparently Sedna is also the high vibration of Ceres. So there's a lot to do with being really beyond nurturing. Why do we nurture in the first place? So this sort of absolute forgiveness of our past and absolute forgiveness of the poison that we've gone through our bodies, which is in Taurus right here. So the senses, the bodies, any sort of anything related to wealth as well, self-worth. So that release of the past, the release of self-unworthiness, because otherwise Lilith will be like this sort of like vindictive Lilith. We still might go through this sort of like, okay, Lilith wants to be true to herself, but with the opposition it feels like, well, people might feel like they need to be vindictive and revengeful and all that stuff. Whereas it's like, well, it's a release thing. Do I let go? Do I hold on because I'm afraid who do I trust? Who do I share my own personal, emotional, mental, physical, material resources with? It is definitely, a thing. But at the same time, kind of like, does it really matter if it's the resources? No, there's resources come in different forms and energy. It's about really balancing and coming to terms with some people you might just have to let go, and some people you might keep. Doesn't matter. And it's not necessarily about relationship. It's about your relationship with yourself. Lilith is more about yourself. Lilith is more about what is it really. It's not every person is a mirror, right? You are a mirror to another person. So you become a lesson to them. They are a lesson to you. You're a teacher to them. They are a teacher to you. You're a student to them. They are a student to you. Two sides of the same coin. Okay. I'm just going to go add a little bit of this information with this one here, because I noticed that there's lots of energy coming in through with these ones. I noticed that one of these fixed stars right here, Kaus, one of them, is Venus out of energy. Very calm, forgiving, or relaxed, and very peaceful. But a lot to do with we're going to this constellation of Sagittarius. So I'm just going to go general here because I'm still, fixed stars is still new to me, but just fine. It's the fun part about the whole thing. So with the, okay, I'm going to read it from Astrology King's website. So the stars at the point of the arrow in Sagittarius have an influence similar to that of Mars and the Moon, being adventurous, perfidious, insolent, wanton, brutal, danger to eyes, or something like that. If rising, sore eyes, weak sight, trouble and loss through women. If culminating, disgrace and imprisonment. Those on the bow and at the grasp of the hand act like Jupiter and Mars. High ambition, pride, love of power, grandeur of view. Of rising, military honors. Of climbing, high ecclesiastical honor, martial preferment, prosperity in business, those in the ways of... Okay. So basically we get the point. Sagittarius, the archer, next to this is, it's something to do with, of course, Sagittarius. As you know, there's a lot of bravery behind it. So with this general feel of this constellation, and this is not just a constellation, this is not just a fixed star, so this is guidance we're getting everywhere. The point that I'm getting here is about courage and going forward and learning to make mistakes, and being able to be yourself guided by wisdom that have come and gone before you. Right? All these fixed stars right here. Especially the ones here, I have Terabellum in my own chart. Here we go. Okay, anyways, I'm going to leave that there. So terrible. Okay, so these fixed stars are guides in people, our past lives, many of our past lives, many of the guidance we're getting. You can call it angelic, you can call it whatever you want. The point is that these are ancestors that we view as like, oh, it's alien, it's ET stuff. Yes, it is, but we're a galactic family. So that's the way I'm understanding it now. That's all I'm going to say about this one. This one right here is not Spica. This is Polis right here. This is Specium or something like that. I don't know what to say about that one. But most of these fixed stars are definitely about that. So having the courage to face the changes that we're going to go through, that there are some things that we need to continue to learn from, and it will continue and continue and continue. Life is, this is what it is. It's eternal. So I hope that helped a little bit. I'm just going to end it there because it's been a really long video. And that's okay. That's fine. It's just going to take a while to load this one. So I'm going to post the link below. But before we end this one, I'm going to end with one of the... just be in the moment. Doesn't have to be a method or anything at all. It's being grounded with just being. And again, drawing the attention into your body, to the breath, and seeing where that goes. Even when you have thoughts, you let that pass. Surrender to the moment. Feel where the energies are in your hands, your head, your skin, your butt, your legs, your feet. Just surrender. May this be a practice for you continuously in this new year. Everything is internally decided. Always have the choice. You are not the waves, the conceptualized waves of the ocean is your journey. But in truth, we are the whole. That's why we go back to wholeness. Alright. Continue this breathing or this stillness throughout the day, wherever you are, throughout the night, before you go to bed. And I'll see you guys later. Thank you.